Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into today's video. Go to start off with today's video, having a look at weather next 8 to 10 days. And then we'll have a look at a couple of longer range models, CFS V2 and the Beijing Climate Centre, to see whether there's any sign of some colder conditions coming up in the next month, because we're heading into the final month of the winter. It's been a very mild winter so far. So have a look at a couple of longer range models, and also have a look at the stratosphere as well, see what's going on there over North Pole, whether this stratospheric warming is still on course for early February. So quite a lot to cram into today's video, but before I go on with that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on the page that goes up. Please have a browse to widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in, and thanks very much for doing that. So as I say, I'm going to start off with the weather in the more immediate time frame, and then we'll have a look at the longer range. So we're going to start off with the GFS for Friday, and we're going to have an unsettled week coming up this week. There'll be bouts of rain coming through, strong winds as well, but temperatures should be generally mild, because it's very mild at the moment, and it was yesterday as well, a very mild day. Those temperatures probably are peaking actually today, and then they'll be a little bit lower over the coming week, but still several degrees probably above average. So this is how we go into Friday in a classic Atlantic driven pattern. We've got high pressure from the Azores stretching into France, low pressure up to the north of Scotland, and bringing in these westerly winds. So as I say, this is a very classic zonal winter pattern. Seen a lot of this over this winter so far, and it's going on into the end of January. We move through into Saturday. There'll be an active cold front coming across country, bringing a band of heavy rain and strong winds. I mean, it turns a bit colder actually behind that, potentially. Excuse me. That could bring some wintry showers into the north on Saturday. We get a little bulge of high pressure for Sunday, so Sunday could be a fairly pleasant day with quite a bit of dry weather. It will be cooler, but it could be quite a nice day on Sunday. But by Monday, we're back into mild, wet, windy type conditions again, with the classic scenario of high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north. This is Monday the 1st of February, of course, a week away. And then we go up to day 10, and we stay in this Atlantic driven pattern. So this is the chart for day 10, which is Thursday the 4th of February. And there's no real change to the pattern. We've still got high pressure clinging on across Spain and France. We've still got low pressure to the northwest, so still bringing in these westerly to southwest winds. Just beyond that, it does turn a bit colder as the air goes into the north and the northwest, but it's still basically the same pattern, with high pressure to the south and the west, low pressure up to the north and the northwest. No real change in the fundamental setup, just bring down a little bit of cooler air at the end of next week. That's a very long way off anyway. The east end of the earth is very similar, so there's the ridge through the Azores into France on Friday, low pressure up to the north and the west of the country. We go from Saturday, probably quite wet and windy. By Sunday, we're in a colder air mass, so shadow could turn wintry in the north. We're just talking about temperature going down to average, really, so that's low enough for cold. That's low enough for cold air and snow in the north. So showers in the north, and probably just rain showers. A lot of dry weather actually for the south. Is a little ridge of high pressure there for Sunday, so I think Sunday could be quite a nice day. Next week though, we go back to this unsettled weather, Atlantic driven conditions driving in off the Atlantic once again on Monday the 1st. Going through Tuesday the 2nd again, we're in that westerly flow, and we go through to day 10, which is Thursday the 4th of February. Once again with high pressure to the south through Portugal, Spain and France, low pressure up to the north and northwest. So up to day 10, which is before February, there's no sign of a fundamental change to the pattern. It's going to remain Atlantic driven. We could bring some cold incursions down at times, particularly to the north, but overall it does look like fundamentally it's a westerly Atlantic driven pattern going into the start of February. So we need something to break us out of this, and one of the things that could break us out is a sudden stratospheric warming over the North Pole. When the temperature shoots up over a day or two over the North Pole, it can eventually translate back into the chance of blocking over pole, and blocking is our route to sort of a sustained cold pattern, which can go on over several weeks and bring cold weather across, not just the UK, but many parts of mid-latitude, so Europe, Asia, America. You can also get significantly cold weather from a sudden stratospheric warming. What we're looking for on this chart, this is the GFS forecast for the stratosphere over the North Pole. What we're looking for is basically red colours to appear. This is starting on the 2nd of February, and you see we've got these blue colours here over top of the pole with yellow and green colours around the edges. So what's going on here is that we've got some warming taking place around the edges of the pole and pretty mid-latitudes, but actually over top of the pole, which is just here, we've got these blue colours, so it's still cold over parts. It's been cold over the North Pole throughout this winter so far. It's one of the things that's driven this Atlantic-driven pattern of mild winter that we've had so far. Excuse me. So what we're going to be looking for is the colours to shoot up into sort of red territory. Let's have a look and see whether we pull that off. So we go through the first days of February. This takes us into the 4th of February. Notice up to the 4th of February we've got these yellow colours deepening, turning towards orange here around Siberia. Actually, up to 4th of February, still over top of the bulb, we've still got these cold temperatures. The blue colours are still there. But we do get the red colours appearing as we go through to the 5th and the 6th of February. A sudden stratospheric warming takes place. I think it's a very significant warming taking place over Siberia and starting to push in towards the pole on the 6th of February. And as we run through, we lose the red colours. Of course, the temperature can't be sustained at that level in the top of the atmosphere and stratosphere for all that long. So eventually, after a day or so, we start to lose the red colours. But nevertheless, that's still a very significant warming that's taking place there over top of the North Pole as we get through, say around the 5th, 6th of February. That looks to be the key day. And it has done for some time now. Around the 5th and the 6th of February, it looks as though we'll get some sort of sudden stratospheric warming. I'm not sure this is a killing blow. I'm not sure it's quite strong enough and over such a sustained period to be a killing blow for the polar vortex. But it will certainly give it a good knock. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get through to, because there's always a time delay on this, so we get the warming and then it's got to propagate down from the stratosphere into the troposphere where weather takes place. And that takes a little while, and then it's got to set up the blocking area of high pressure. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get through to the end of February and into the start of March if we do see some blocking over the pole from this. I'd expect the polar vortex to significantly weaken anyway. May not be killed, but I do think this will be quite a significant warming event if it comes off. It's still in the unreliable timeframe of a GFS model. But if it comes off like this, I think will be probably enough to give the polar vortex a real battering at the very least. So have a look at some extended models for next month, see if there's any sign of anything happening with this stratospheric warming in terms of the chance of blocking cold weather towards the end of February. So look at CFS-V2 and then look at Beige Climate Centre. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods from a CFS-V2 first of all. This is going from the 25th through to the 31st of January. And this is still very Atlantic driven. It's becoming weak and we've got this ridge here across Europe extending out into the Azores, low pressure up to the northwest of the country, and the jet stream going like that. So on the mild side of the jet, Atlantic-driven pattern. We know what we've got coming up over the next week to 10 days. It's going to be generally mild and Atlantic-driven. We go through to week 2, which is the 1st to the 7th of February. This is still looking at Atlantic-driven. We've still got the ridge there around Spain and Portugal. Still got low pressure to the north, west of Scotland. But jet stream probably coming a bit further south. We're probably bringing some cooler air here from the northern part of the Atlantic. So I'm not sure it's quite as mild as it is at the end of January, but it still is generally a mild Atlantic-driven pattern, you see what I mean. We go through into week 3, which is the 8th through to the 14th of February. Excuse me. And what we find here is that the ridge is pulling out into the Atlantic. So there's a lot of high-pressure influences, actually, with the jet stream going rather like that. Probably still on the mild side of the jet. We've still got that high pressure sitting to the west of the country. So lot of settled weather there potentially for the second week of February, and generally still I would think fairly mild. We go through to week 4, which is the 15th through to 21st of February, and now there's real signs that the Atlantic is pulling out into the Atlantic. This low pressure around Iceland is probably keeping the north unsettled, but I think the jet stream could be aligning northwest to southeast here. So I've got a feeling what's happening is that we're beginning to retrogress that high pressure out into the Atlantic, not necessarily into a particularly cold pattern, although we've got some high pressure forming around Svalbard and to the north of Scandinavia. I think that could be evolving into something significantly colder for the end of February. If we have a look at the temperature anomalies, actually the CFS-V2 wants to keep things mild up to the middle of February anyway. So the first week, end of January, is a very mild week, of course. Week 2, again, milder than average there. Week 3 looking significantly milder than average as well, and that all makes sense on the basis of the charts. We probably will keep it mild up to around the middle of February anyway. Now week 4 is keeping it very mild also. This is from the 15th through to 21st of February. So up to week 4, but 21st of February, there's no sign of a change to anything significantly colder. But the way the pattern is evolving there, I think it is evolving towards something colder. So it could be that just beyond this, it starts to turn cold. The model could be got its dates a little bit wrong, of course. But I think the way the pattern evolves there, there is certainly some indications that as we get through to the second half of February, and I would think particularly towards the end of February, it could turn significantly cold. That's CFS-V2, Beijing Climate Center. 500 millibar heights broken down into 10-day periods look like this. The coming 10 days from the 26th of January to the 4th of February shows high pressure to the south and low pressure to the north. We remain in a very sort of mild Atlantic-driven type pattern with that one. We go through to the 5th to the 14th of February, so up to Valentine's Day. And the ridge is building up from the south, but we've still got low pressure to the north. So this is still looking generally quite mild. I think the jet stream probably still going to the north of the country, if anything, but it is turning more settled there for that 10-day period. So certainly up to the middle of February, things are looking generally quite mild, with just occasional, probably colder incursions. We go through to the next 10 days, which is the 15th to the 24th of February. And same idea as for CFS-V2, which is to start to pull this high pressure out into the Atlantic, probably to start to bring the jet stream southwards like that. So I think it turns more unsettled. It may start to turn cooler in this period as well. And then we go through to the last 10-day period. So this is taking us from the 25th of February to the 5th of March. And what we see here is quite a significant change taking place. The high pressure is going up towards the south of Greenland. So proper retrogression there from where we are in the middle of February to the end of February and start of March. We see proper retrogression of this high pressure out into the Atlantic and eventually up towards Greenland, which sets up a trough around the UK and into Scandinavia. That would be a lot colder there. The jet stream would be going to the south of the country. It will be turning significantly colder, maybe even wintry, with snow certainly possible on that kind of an evolution. The temperature anomalies from the Beijing Climate Center for the next 10 days look very mild. The coming 10 days, I should say, 26th January to 4th February. So a mild period to the end of the month. Up to the middle of January, it's going from a 10-day period from the 5th to the 14th of February. Well, look at that, significantly milder than average again. And then we go through to that next 10-day period, which shows retrogression beginning to take place at the high pressure into the Atlantic. And although it is a milder than average period from the 15th to 24th of February, it's not as mild. The temperatures are lowering in that 10-day period. We go through to the final 10 days, which sets up the trough over the UK and Scandinavia. And look at this, from the 25th of February through to the 5th of March, we go a little bit, not significantly, but we do start to go a little bit colder than average. So reading between the lines of what the CFS and the Beijing Climate Center are doing, I think up to the middle of February, we've got a mild pattern, certainly. That all makes sense. We get through to the second half of February, and I think both of the models, the CFS isn't as clear-cut as the Beijing Climate Center, but both models are hinting of retrogression of the high pressure from sort of France and Spain out into the middle of the Atlantic, and then potentially by the end of February going up towards Greenland, and that could start to set up a trough underneath it, send the jet stream south, and begin to set up a much colder pattern for the very end of the winter and into the start of March. And that could well tie in with the southern stratospheric warming, because as I say, we get the southern stratospheric warming, which looks like it's going to take place around the 5th or the 6th of February. There is a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks delay before we start to get the colder pattern coming through. So I think it could all be setting up for quite a cold end to winter, which would be ironic given how mild this winter has been. But as we get through to the end of February, I think watch out for some cold weather, maybe the coldest weather of the winter coming through at the very end of the winter and potentially even into the start of spring. So that's what we'll be looking for over the next few weeks to see whether all this comes up. Just sort of laying the groundwork for it all with today's video. But that'll be what we'll be looking at over the next few weeks to see whether this comes to anything. Tomorrow's video will just be a update for the next 8 to 10 days. But that's all for now. I hope you found the video interesting. Thanks for watching.